Welcome to the best of first-person episodes from Phantoms and Monsters. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads.
Montana Werewolf Incident. This event happened 5 years ago during mid-July. I live in Montana, outside of a rural community, with a population of about 2,000. This is my first time bringing this story forward. During this time, I lived in a small one-floor ranch home by myself. My nearest neighbor lived 1 mile away and was a farmer. I never had many strange encounters leading up to this one, but the woods by my house always had an ominous feel to it. Soon after moving in, I realized why the previous homeowners left pretty quickly. I'd start to hear noises in the woods. These weren't just any noises, but what sounded like blood-curdling screams and growls. After some research, I learned that even something like a raccoon or bobcat can make these unnatural noises, and chalked it up to being that. But still, it just never felt right. It's hard to explain, but I never felt like this before, and it was just something about the woods around my house that made me uncomfortable. Like I was always being watched. The first experience I couldn't explain happened about 2 weeks after I moved in. There was a thunderstorm, and the thunder was loud enough to keep me awake. I never did feel comfortable in storms by myself. The lightning was crazy and would light up the whole surrounding area for a fraction of a second. I was laying on the couch and got up to get a glass and a drink at the sink. It was about 2 a.m. if I recall correctly. Above it there's a small window that gives a view of my yard leading up to the tree line. When the next flash of lightning hit, I saw it. Admittedly, it wasn't a long view, but it gave me enough time to see whatever this thing was. It was near the tree line, just a few steps into my yard. At first I thought it was a bear, but it wasn't. It was standing on 2 legs with its face pointed towards the house. Its legs were like a dog's, and I could clearly make out the hocks. It was hard to tell the color of the fur, but it was dark. Its upper body was massive with a white torso and arms that could almost reach the ground from standing. The strangest thing is how the upper body seemed to dwarf the lower body. After standing there, frozen in shock, I waited for the next lightning strike, but when it happened it wasn't there. It happened so quickly and was gone so quickly. After that, I bought a gun and would sleep with it within an arm's reach. The next encounter is what I consider the most frightening thing of my life. For several weeks nothing worth noting happened. I don't get cable where I live, and one night I was watching something and my satellite kept acting up. I didn't like going outside at night, but this would be quick. I just had to move the antenna a little bit. Nothing had happened for a few weeks, so I decided to just go out and do it. I grabbed my gun and flashlight and went out. The first thing I noticed was the eerie quietness that surrounded me. This time of year at night the woods are active with all types of creatures. Not tonight. Despite the fear I was developing, I made my way over to the satellite and began to adjust it. I heard a small snap of a stick and quickly turned to my left and shined the light towards the direction of the noise. What I saw will horrify me for the rest of my life. I was immediately met with red eyes. These eyes were color of blood and they were evil. The head of this thing looked like a mutated German shepherd. I don't like to say it, but it looked like a werewolf. The long snout and pointed ears. The fur was black and shaggy in some places. I could see this creature's extremely developed musculature, and it dwarfed even the biggest humans on Earth. It was half in and half out of the woods, almost crouching, and it still came up to my head at 6 foot. Fully standing, this thing would have been 8 foot I estimated. I was about 20 feet from this thing. I didn't even consider my gun, which I thought to protect me. Chances are in hindsight, the little .223 bullets would have just pissed this thing off before it tore me to shreds. I backed away slowly, never breaking eye contact with it. I gently picked up my gun and my fight-or-flight reflexes kicked in. I chose flight. Maybe not the best option, but even if I stayed there, this thing would kill me. I ran the fastest I ever have in my life and didn't turn back once. I have no idea if it was pursuing me. I got in the house, locked every door, window, covered the blinds, and sat with my back against the wall cradling the gun the entire night. I didn't get a wink of sleep that night and very few the following days. To make a long story short, I don't live there anymore. People often talk of Sasquatch being harmonious with nature and living within the ecosystem. Sure, if you see one it might be scary, but it's probably more awe than anything. With this thing it was totally different. It felt unnatural. It was sinister. It felt evil. It was stalking me, toying with me, and I believe it would have killed me. I have never seen nor experienced this feeling again in my life. It is a memory I try to put past me, but I still get nightmares about it. I think until the day I die I will always have the image burned into my memory. The best image I have seen that fits the description of the creature are the werewolves from the movie, The Howling. The isolation is definitely the worst part. It's just you and this creature out there, and if it decides that it doesn't want you around anymore, you will disappear. Then your death will be ruled as either an attack from bears or wolves. Looking back, there were a lot of wildlife-related deaths in my general area. I wonder if it's just coincidence. In my mind there is no way this way bear. I was so close to it I could see every feature. It had an obvious canine appearance in the face and also had hocks, like the legs of a dog. Misidentification is always a thing, but I don't believe this was anything like a bear. Maybe the whole sinister and evil thing is an exaggeration. If it wanted to hurt me it would have done it. It's just how I justify coming face to face with something so terrifying, I think. It looked like a predator that would rip me apart. It's just that it wasn't scared of me. Unlike other Dogman stories I have read, this thing didn't run off or back down. It wasn't expressively aggressive in the encounter, it was just silently watching me. It didn't growl at me either. It was just dead silent. Yes, I saw it very close. So close I could even smell it. It smelled like a wet dog that rolled in something nasty. Very strong and pungent. When the light was shined on its face, its eyes had the same reflection that a cat's would. I will answer any questions you have. RC.
Two werewolves encountered along the Little Kanawha River, West Virginia. One night I was out along the road that goes past my house. We are pretty rural area here, along West Virginia 5, which parallels the Little Kanawha River from Elizabeth to Grantsville, but the animals here are always the same. Until the late 1990s, the State Department of Natural Resources let coyotes loose, and in the early 1980s wild turkeys. Now they are releasing wild elk. Yet there is no sightings of these creatures. I have heard black panthers and even seen 2 kittens dead. At my friend's house, her dad had treed the kittens, but the mother got away. To this day, West Virginia DNR refuses to state that black panthers exists in West Virginia. This night I saw something I never thought I would have seen. 2 huge wolves that were bigger than anything I have seen before. I know people who own wolves and I have been around them. When they left on vacation, I even feed their pet wolves. So I know how big they can get, but these were no regular wolves. They were twice as big as me and they gave this eerie feeling. They walked off the hillside and came out of the foggy mist. Their eyes had this glow of yellow even before I turned my phone's flashlight on them. Yes, I had my phone in hand. Why no picture? Because I was scared. Scared stiff, and was just able to look and see these 2 wolves, with one being smaller than the other. Both were very skinny, hippier, one could say bony. Gray with black color markings around eyes and ears. Brown down their backs and gray bushy tail. Tail as long as my leg. The heads were way bigger than my own. Glowing yellow eyes looking right at me. Slowly walking past me. Both moving together and moving their heads when needed to keep me in view. Then they crossed the road and disappeared into the river bank. Across the river on the hillside were coyotes barking and yapping. That was until those 2 wolves crossed the river to their side. Dead quiet then. No noise at all. No bugs, no birds, no coyotes. When my heart started again, I ran as fast as my legs could carry me. I posted what I saw on my Facebook page. Many said they were just northern wolves. No wolves here in West Virginia. Not here, that haven't been brought here as pets. These 2 were no pets? I think the smallest, the one closet towards me, was a female. I also feel she protected me from the male, the biggest one. She nudged him to go on. I thank her for that. He would have killed me easily. They both could have with one bite to my throat. It's not too often I venture out further than my yard nowadays. This property has many of supernatural events happen here. But that night, I truthfully feel I saw Werewolf and his mate. I know what I saw, and it scared me so bad that I have become afraid of the dark. Even on my own property that I grew up on. It has changed me in ways I can't explain. I have become more nature-minded. I worship nature and the power she holds. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here today. I know those creatures exist and I give them a wide path to travel. Always respected and mindful of their presence. MC.
This is Lon Strickler. If you like this program, it would help us if you would give it a thumbs up. Then subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notification when we upload new first-person encounters. We have many more to come very soon. And by the way, if you have a suggestion or an experience of your own, please leave a comment.